What will your storyline be in 2018 now that the holiday rush is over? LegalZoom can help you make this a memorable year before all the distractions take hold. Make this the year you finally get serious about launching and running your business. Rest a little easier knowing your family's future is squared away with the right estate plan. LegalZoom has been helping people like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. They're not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. Whether you want to take your business to the next level or take control of your family's future with an estate plan, LegalZoom plugs right into your life so you can take care of the things that matter most. Get off to a strong start in 2018 at LegalZoom.com today and get special savings when you enter Golic in the promo box at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
What will your storyline be in 2018 now that the holiday rush is over? LegalZoom can help you make this a memorable year before all the distractions take hold. Make this the year you finally get serious about launching and running your business. Rest a little easier knowing your family's future is squared away with the right estate plan. LegalZoom has been helping people like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. They're not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. Whether you want to take your business to the next level or take control of your family's future with an estate plan, LegalZoom plugs right into your life so you can take care of the things that matter most. Get off to a strong start in 2018 at LegalZoom.com today and get special savings when you enter Golic in the promo box at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Good Tuesday morning, everybody, and it is indeed a sweet home Alabama for the Crimson Tide. Welcome into Golic and Wingo. Glad you are here with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic here. Junior will join us in a little bit, next hour from Georgia. He couldn't pull himself away from the game, and Mike, my God, what an unbelievable finish to the college football season.
Listen, son, you came a long way from Hawaii. Go out and get us back in this ball game.
And that is what everybody is talking about. Brought to you by ADT. Considering home security, consider this. For 140 years, ADT has stopped more crime than any other home security company. Visit ADT to learn more, ADT.com. Look, the move to Tua Tagovailoa to start the second half would have been the thing that people would have crucified Nick Saban for had it not worked. But it worked out in spades. And the for lack of a better term, you can say the onions, the intestinal fortitude to make that change. And yes, Nick Saban has as much bank, cachet, goodwill stored up as anybody you can possibly think about in college football. But to make that move and to see that kid play the way he did, that was remarkable. And let's be honest about something here. The kid that he replaced, Jalen Hurts, all he had done is go 25-2 as a starter, and had led this team to back-to-back national championship games. So for him to say, and he was clearly struggling in the first half. Hurts was 3 of 8, I think, for 21 yards.
Right.
But for him to say, you know what? I think in this moment, in this stage with all the bright lights on you, with everything on the line, that, yeah, I think you're the guy. And for him to respond to it the way he did, absolutely remarkable.
There had been whispers all year that Tua, and that's basically what everybody calls him, just because.
Tagovailoa.
Yeah, Tagovailoa. Everybody, doesn't
go with Tua.
Try and pronounce the last name, so they call him Tua. There were, whispers, talk. It had been talked about that he was a better thrower than Jalen Hurts, and watch out for this kid. Next spring, there could be a quarterback competition, to which everybody is saying, wait a minute. Jalen Hurts is 25-2 as a starter, leads them to the national champion, or they lose it last year, and they're in the championship this year. This kid he's an excellent leader, even though younger players, an excellent leader on this team. But we all know the issue. What do you say if you're going to beat Alabama? What do you got to do? You got to make them throw the ball. Make him throw the ball. Make Jalen Hurts have to throw it, because you saw when he ran the ball, he can run pretty darn well.
Absolutely.
But if he has to throw the ball, that could be some issues. And you mentioned the numbers. He had 3 of 8, 21 yards, 62 as total QBR from 24 plays. Total yards for the offense while Hurts was in there was 94 yards, 3.9 yards per play of his 24 plays. So this offense wasn't doing anything. But to take a guy, I don't know what's more amazing about it, is to take a guy who's 25-2 and has found a way to be 25-2.
Absolutely.
Has not been a great passer, but has run this offense for those last couple of years and been the man on that offense, at least, getting everything squared away, even though they have obviously other studs on that team. I don't know what's more amazing is you pull him and you go to a guy who hasn't done anything this year, anything in a meaningful game, because they didn't need him to. He hasn't done anything. What that goes to show you is you don't come to a place like Alabama and wait. You come there and you're expected to be ready, because we're going to get into it. The list of freshmen,
oh my gosh,
true freshmen that were on the field at the end of this game sends that message that even if you're a 5-star, you're still an 18-year-old going into what seems like a man's world before you even go from the college into the pro, from high school to college. So now you are expected, and I think that to me is one of the more important things to find here, is when you come in there, you are expected to play, which means you get treated with that respect right away. You have to earn it, obviously, to get on the field, but that's the expectation. Listen, you're not coming here to just sit around.
There's no easing in.
If you're good enough to be on the field and you show that, we're going to put you on the field. And it doesn't matter if it's the second game of the season or the national championship game where we need you, you're going to go in the game.
Well, to that point, wasn't the left tackle eventually a starting freshman starting a freshman for that game because of injury?
Jonah Williams is their best offensive lineman at left tackle. Their best offensive lineman. I believe it was his ankle he hurt in the game. And in comes Alex Leatherwood, a guy I saw up close and personal at the Under Armour All-America game just last spring.
Unbelievable.
I mean, and the dude looked like he could walk onto a college campus at that point. He had that look. But that's the guy coming off the bench at the most important position, left tackle. And Williams had given up a couple of sacks in that game. And in comes a true freshman at left tackle to go along with a couple of wide receivers and a running back and a quarterback. So that, to me, there are really those two things, is to say, Jalen, you've done a lot for this team, but you know what? Pulling you.
Yeah.
I'm pulling you. And I'm going to a guy. And it really isn't a secret that Tua can throw the ball better. Now, he's a freshman. You saw him running all over the place with his pants are on fire at times out there like a freshman. But, man, he can throw a dart when he has to. And he did.
Well, absolutely. And we have a stat for you that we'll show you a little bit later, which will just blow your mind when you talk about how loaded Alabama is. I thought Kirk Herbstreit made a really great point along those lines about being ready to play on SportsCenter last night when he and Fowler were on with Scott Van Pelt. There's a lot of these guys, the classes, they come in and they take classes in the winter. They're already there for the semester before they play. So they get this whole January experience going through, winter conditioning, spring ball. So by the time they come around and they actually begin their freshman year in September after their first training camp, they don't feel like freshmen. They've been on campus. They've been exposed to this entire process for so much longer than it used to be, and that was a big part of it. And as we said, there's tons of freshmen that did great things for Alabama in the national championship game, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the bottom line was the decision at the half to make that switch because the Alabama offense was DOA in that game. They were not going anywhere. For him to do that, look, again, Nick Saban has more stuff in the bank put away than anybody else in college football.
Does.
But to say on this stage we're going to do it, that's about the gutsiest call you can make. And here's what the Alabama head coach said afterwards on why he made the switch.
We've had this in our mind that if we were struggling offensively, that we would give to an opportunity, even in the last game. And no disrespect to Jalen, but the real thought is we came into the game thinking that we were going to run the ball and be able to run quarterback runs, which we made a couple of explosive plays on. But just without the absence of a passing game and being able to make explosive plays and be able to convert on third down, I just didn't feel like we could run the ball well enough, and I thought Tua would give us a better chance and a spark, which he certainly did.
Boy, did he.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And you heard him there, and I heard Herbie talking about this in the production meeting when you sit there, the whole crew, they talk to the head coach, the coordinators, and select players. And Herbie put it to Nick Saban. He said, is there a plan for Tua to come in the game? Is it by feel or is it predetermined? And made it sound like we have a package ready for this guy. And you just heard Nick say there, if we were struggling even in the last game, we were struggling and we needed passing, we would make that move. So they were ready for him to come in the game. And then Herbie went another question. He said, well, what if he, goes 8 of 9 and 80 yards and a touchdown? Are you pulling him? And Nick Saban, they said that's when Nick Saban got to be Nick Saban.
Uncomfortable, I believe was the word.
He folded his arms, he leaned back, it got a little uncomfortable in there, and he said, I got a lot on my mind and not be worrying about hypotheticals right now. But the bottom line is they had a package ready for Tua to come in the game, even for the last game, because of the way he can throw the ball. And listen, Jalen Hurts did Jalen Hurts things with his legs. 6 carries, 54 yards. Now, most of them were on one run of 47 yards, but that's what you wait for with a guy like Jalen Hurts, is when he gets that big run like that. But when you have a half that goes missed field goal, punt, end of half, you're like, okay, Alabama shut out in the first half. You saw Jalen Hurts miss a wide-open Calvin Ridley in the end zone early on in that game, a wide-open defender even slipped down, but I think Ridley would have been open anyway, and just overthrew him in the end zone. And I have to say Calvin Ridley, because I'm not going to lie, didn't know that his brother
Riley Ridley
plays for Georgia, because Wims is a guy you throw to for Georgia, but he got injured in this one. So his brother, Calvin's brother, Riley Ridley, had the most catches for Georgia on the other end. How about that? How about the Ridley family in the national championship
game?
Had
more catches than Calvin and had more yards than anybody. He had 6 catches for 82 yards.
Yeah,
Wims
impressive.
only had that 1 catch. You knew he was in trouble, by the way, when he went off into the locker room.
Yeah.
You could see his just left arm dangling.
Absolutely.
They said he was going to come back, and I'm like, with what? With a Band-Aid?
Yeah, I didn't see that happen.
But, it wasn't just the switch to Tonga Vailoa that Saban made, which was a great call. There was also the 4th and 4 play that led to the tying touchdown, when I don't think, in fact, I'm pretty sure that Tonga Vailoa wasn't looking for Calvin Ridley. It sure looked like he was looking for Harris.
Yeah.
Najee Harris, who was in the back of the end zone, and Ridley just came out of nowhere coming the other way and made that catch. I mean, to go for it, look, it was 4 minutes left. I think they still had all 3 of their timeouts. But even if they kick the field goal, they're still down 4.
They still need a touchdown.
It was the right call to make, even if you don't get it.
So, you go for it. 4th one, you can still get a first down, by the way, at the 3-yard line. Yeah. But the throw goes to the end zone, and Calvin Ridley, you think, okay, the star gets a pass to him. But you're right. There was a whole lot of, I don't know if that ball was really meant for him. But you know what? So what? Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner had a great tweet and said, I don't think that was hey, it's happened to me too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the guy, but he looks like he was going the other way, and Ridley just came out of nowhere and sniped that ball. Good for you. Good for Alabama.
Bottom line, it's a touchdown.
That is exactly right. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620. $620. 620 clams. 620 simoleons. So you should do that. But then there was the game-winning play in overtime.
Well, first, even before that, I mean, I thought the game was done 6 seconds ago, and Eddie Pappanastis is lining up. He missed it first field goal.
Looks like a lot of my drives on the first tee when pressure's on the line.
A 36-yarder. This is anything. I mean, they set him up perfectly. They even brought Jalen Hurts back in with 6 seconds to go. The ball was on the right hash to take the snap and run it to the middle of the field. So basically, what happens is, Where does your kicker like to kick the ball from? Okay, we have the ability to put it right where you want to kick it from. And that's exactly what they did. 36-yarder, perfect snap, perfect hold, and unfortunately, the kicker just absolutely snap-hooked that thing.
Yeah, you felt for the kid.
Oh,
you never
horrible.
want to see a college kicker miss something like that. I mean, that was tough. And he had missed one earlier. He actually made it, and there was a penalty. They pushed him back 5 yards, and he missed the second one.
Right.
That was tough. But I tell you what, man, I just channeled my inner John Gruden.
There you go.
I tell you what, man, I like that kid. He's awesome. Perhaps the most impressive play Tua made in the entire game, and he made a ton of them, was the game-winning throw.
Yeah.
Against the defense that Georgia was giving it was a cover 2 look.
Yeah.
Which means there were 2 safeties on the field. Each had one half of the field. And the way he looked the safety off was impressive. It not only caught my eye and your eye, it also caught the eye of Joey Galloway, one of our great college football analysts who played in the NFL for a lot of years and was begging for quarterbacks to do for many, many of those seasons what this 18-year-old did in the national championship game.
You know how long I begged quarterbacks to read a cover 2 safety and realize he was not getting off the hash and throw the football because he can't get there? I begged 26 quarterbacks I played with in the NFL, and they refused. Because when you see cover 2, supposedly the deep strike down the sideline is gone. It's taken away because the corner reroutes your receiver, and then the safety is on the hash, and he's wide, and he's going to make the play. So this young quarterback not only delivers the ball, but reads it. And when he's talking to Maria, he said, I saw the 2 deep safety. Now, generally, you see the 2 deep safety, you get off of the street.
Yep.
He not only saw it, and then had to come and say, look, I see it. That safety's not over. I'm going to throw the ball.
I mean, to do that in that moment at that age, I mean, okay, let's put it in some sort of perspective. At 18 years old, with everything on the line, this kid in the national championship game has the presence of mind to do that. What was your greatest accomplishment as an 18-year-old?
Nowhere near that.
Mine was getting to a 10 o'clock class.
Yeah.
Not an 8 o'clock class, a 10 o'clock class on time.
Plus, even back that up, the play before that, he took a horrible sack.
Yep.
A sack so bad that Saban said after the game, Tua wouldn't have been able to make that throw if I had gotten to him after he took that sack.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a sack you can't take. But he's an 18-year-old throwing it in the second half. And the expectation is, though, you have a job to do. You got to do your job. You don't take a sack in that that situation to where it's now 2nd and 26 to go to a cover 2 where that play's really not supposed to be there. Joey Galloway just broke it down perfectly. Is that the corner reroute you, and the safety in that case was Dominic Sanders. He gets looked to the hash, and Tua said he saw it and knew it, and he did a good job of looking. Didn't stare down his receiver, just looked and saw where he was going to go and went. It was very impressive, especially coming off that sack. As I said, there are times, boy, the interception he threw, it was a running play, and all the receivers were blocking.
Yeah.
All the receivers were blocking, and he threw a ball, and it was picked off. So he made freshman, but you expect that. That's why you don't expect a freshman to have not played any meaningful plays during a season, not be inserted into the national championship game in the second half. So, I mean, we'll have all day, obviously, to talk about this all show, because we're going to look at it from the Georgia side as well. Because
absolutely.
Let's be honest, they had this game early on, but you look at just what went on to them in the game before that. We all thought Oklahoma, this game was over in the Rose Bowl, and Georgia comes back, and beats them in 2 overtimes to get to this game. But I tell you, the legend that does live on, you got to give it up for Rodrigo Blankenship. Kid knocks a fit. Talk about sacks in overtime. Fromm got sacked as well. They end up kicking a 51-yarder. If you kneel down 3 times in overtime, it's a 42-yard field goal.
Yep.
So you lost yards in overtime to make it a 51-yarder, and Blankenship absolutely knocked it through to give them that 3-point lead. And then think about the momentum switch. Blankenship knocks a 51-yard field goal in the overtime. They're up by 3. The first play for Alabama is a 16-yard sack. This kid's running around like a chicken with his head cut off and gets sacked, and you're like, okay, now you got a true freshman at 2nd 26 in overtime of the national championship game. Hey, no problem. Look at the safety, stare him down, let my guy go, and just dump it right over the top. To another freshman, by the way. Another freshman in Devonta Smith. Another true freshman in at the biggest time of the game.
Well, first of all, the legend of Rodrigo Blankenship continues to grow. Let's be clear about that. That was impressive. But the idea that Nick Saban has won his 6th national championship, 5 in the last 9 years in Alabama and 1 in the BCS era at LSU. The 6 tie the most during the Pole era, which goes back to the 1930s with someone Bama's familiar with, Bear Bryant.
Yeah.
That's the company we're in with Nick Saban. And he did it this way. If you think that Nick Saban's run at Alabama is in any way maybe peaking, get over yourself. Because they won that game with a freshman leading them in passing yards, a freshman leading them in rushing yards, and thanks to that one catch for 41 yards, Devontae Smith, a freshman, leading them in receiving yards. You may be sick and tired of Alabama's dominance. You might want to just get used to it for a while because they're not going anywhere for a long time with the way he's got them reloaded. The guests we have for you today, coming up in a little bit, we'll talk to Greg McElroy, former Alabama quarterback, works for us on the SEC Network. I'm sure his mind was blown by what he saw from Tua in the second half.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. SEC Network analyst Greg McElroy now joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. And Greg, that's the perfect read because they made the switch to Tua Tagovailoa at the half, and boy, that paid off. When you saw Tagovailoa take the field, meaning that Nick Saban, a guy you played for, has decided to make this switch to a freshman who is going to be 20 in March. He's actually 19, not 18. And that he was going to give him the keys to the kingdom on the biggest stage. What was the first thing that went through your mind?
This poor kid and his poor parents, right? It's like you throw him out there. I feel like it was almost, for any normal person, it would be just beyond all comprehension. Oh, here, by the way, hey, go ahead, go in there. Your first significant playing time. You have 30 minutes to bring us back from a 13-point deficit. Hey, do your best, man. Appreciate you. Like, what? That's an impossible ask, and yet for Tua to be able to deliver as calmly as he did and as accurately as he did throwing the ball late in the game, it was just incredible. I mean, it was a storybook ending to what was a roller coaster season for Alabama and one that's punctuated with yet another national championship.
You know, and before we even got to that, Greg, we had that first half where, you know, we've read the numbers of what the offense had done for Alabama. I believe 94 yards. Hurts was 3 of 8 for 21 yards. And even though while it's not a juggernaut offense, to be shut out, what was your thought process there? Certainly you have to give the Georgia defense much credit for that, but I was still surprised that this offense was shut out.
You know, I think, Mike, looking at this offense and looking at Jalen, it's easy to pin the blame entirely on him given the way things worked out in the second half. But it was bad performance by everybody. I mean, there was no separation by the wide receivers. The offensive line was a little leaky. They couldn't get a whole lot going on the ground. So you can sit there and say, oh, well, it was just the quarterback. I think the players around Tua in the second half played significantly better than they did around Jalen in the first. So I really don't want everyone to walk away from this game feeling as though Jalen was the sole reason why the offense was ineffective, because it wasn't the truth. I mean, they couldn't get out of their own way when it comes to what they were trying to do in the first half. But I do think that Brian Dable, the play caller and offensive coordinator, he was a little limited because Jalen is not seeing the field real great right now, and they knew they had to make a change because coming back from a 2-score deficit the way they had it, it was not looking good unless you could throw the ball down the field, and that's not something Jalen Hurts is real comfortable doing at this point in his career.
Greg McElroy with us, of course, played at Alabama, knows the pressure that goes with that position. Okay, knowing the stage that he was on and knowing that he had never played any significant time without a double-digit lead, Greg, in a game, Tagovailoa, what was the most impressive thing you saw about his performance in leading Alabama back and outscoring in the second half Georgia 26-7?
Well, anybody that's been around the program has seen Tua and has been kind of blown away. And I've watched him on multiple different occasions dating back to last spring, and I thought to myself, this kid is really special. Now, I'm not sure he knows what's going on all the time, and I think that was evidenced by the sack in overtime and the interception that he threw as he was rolling to his left trying to throw it away. It was a pick. I mean, he's going to have some mistakes. But if you just can live with those, then the plays that he will make for you will flat out blow you away. So I think this kid is going to be an absolute star. And I've already said it. I was talking to a lot of people last night as we got back to the hotel, of course, burning the midnight oil, as we tend to do with these championship game performances. And I'm willing to go on record. I really believe this. I think he's going to win a Heisman Trophy at some point. I really think he has that level of upside. And knowing that Alabama and the young nucleus that they have around him, at one point last night, there were 6 freshmen on the field with under 2 minutes to play in a game in which they're playing for the national championship, the most important drive of the season. They had a true freshman at left tackle, running back, quarterback, 3 at wide receiver. Truly incredible. And I think that this young nucleus is really going to grow together, and it's going to be to a show moving forward. I mean, you just can't put him back on the bench after a performance like that. I kind of liken it to when Cardale Jones got the first nod in the 2015 season over J.T. Barrett because of how well he played down the stretch. That's going to be a similar case, I would assume, to what we're going to see at Alabama. And that young group and that young core is going to be very good for quite some time.
Yeah, some of those freshmen you mentioned, Tua, Devonta Smith, who caught the touchdown, Najee Harris, the running back, Henry Ruggs, the third, one of the wide receivers, Alex Leatherwood, the tackle that you're talking about who filled in for Jonah Williams, who got hurt in that game. So talk about that for a minute, Greg. Take us inside there. When you, as a guy who played in that system and with Nick, go there, what does Nick put on the freshmen for expectations? Because some just go there and, you're going to sit and you're not going to do anything and you're not expected to do a lot. It certainly seems different there. So how does that come from Nick?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really comes from the fact that he recruits at a high level to begin with. So when the guys get on campus, and most of which are going to enroll early, several of which have NFL aspirations, they want to start that clock, Mike. They want to get things going, and when they get to that 3-year period, they're gone. And you're going to see a mass exodus again this year from some of the third-year juniors that will be declaring. And I'm not sure we have a final list, but if it was any less than 7 or 8, I'd be surprised. It's just guys come in not expecting to redshirt. Guys come in expecting to play, and Nick Saban plays them. He doesn't redshirt hardly anybody. On that team last night, there were 18 true freshmen that contributed at some point over the course of the season. There were three fifth-year seniors on the entire team, which is pretty amazing. One of which actually proposed, Bradley Bozeman.
Yeah, we saw that.
Congratulations. Congratulations to him. He's an old man relative to the rest of his teammates because he is one of the 3 fifth-year seniors. But it's amazing how much they put on the freshmen nowadays. But freshmen aren't the same anymore, man. Mike, I remember when I was playing, it's like, man, if a true freshman was out there, if something was either wrong, you had injuries, or you were extremely thin. Freshmen don't have those expectations anymore. They have expectations of coming in, high school football and college football. The offenses that you see at the high school level, they're awfully similar to the ones that are being run at the college level. So I don't think the gap and the leap is as wide as it once was. But still, to see them perform with such poise on such a big setting is remarkable. And I think Nick Saban would even tell you, yeah, he has high hopes for those guys and their future, and he believes that they have a ton of talent. But you don't really know what you're going to get until you roll the ball out there. Hey, go have a day, young fella. I guess when the red light goes on and the bright lights are on, and obviously you have a crazy setting in a national championship environment, it's tough to expect anything else from these guys to go out and try to put their best foot forward. But man, even their parents probably wouldn't have expected such an incredible outcome.
Well, it was absolutely remarkable. As Greg McElroy's with us, SEC network analyst, and obviously played college football at Nick Saban at Alabama. And we've talked a lot here about Tua and the way he was able to respond. But Greg, I don't think Tua plays that well if Jalen Hurts doesn't respond the way he did to being benched. It was remarkable. It was an incredible show of handling, obviously, what would have been a major disappointment for him in the exact right way. When Tua took the field for the first time, who was there right next to him getting him ready? It was Hurts. Every time that he was on the sidelines, who was there talking to him? It was Jalen Hurts, who a lot of people concede is the alpha male in that locker room that led that team to 2 straight national championships. And for him to handle being benched the way he did, I think allowed Tua on many levels to play the way he did. I
think it's difficult to come to any other conclusion. I'm 100% with you. And I thought Jalen in his post-game visits with both Tom Rinaldi and with Marty Smith just handled it masterfully. I mean, how else can you tell a kid and rip a kid's heart out knowing that he's chased this national championship dream for the last 12 months, and at halftime you say, hey, your night's done, barring something completely unforeseen? I mean, I thought he handled it about as well as he possibly could, and I feel terrible for that young man. I do, and I feel especially bad for the ignorance that's being shown by a lot of people that are just placing the blame solely on him, because it's hard to play quarterback by yourself. I mean, he certainly can carry and shoulder some of the blame, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. But I really thought the grace and the leadership that he displayed in the final 30 minutes of that football game was just truly unique. And you just don't see it all that often. I mean, this has always been a first-class young man. It's a very disappointing outcome, and it's a disappointing and a bitter end to what could be his Alabama career if, in fact, he decides to transfer. Of course, we don't know that. We might not for quite some time, but you feel terrible for him. But like you said, I mean, his willingness to cheer on Tua, talk to Tua, try to rally around Tua, and really be a part and enjoy the post game as much as anybody was. It's really it shows his character, and it shows what was truly important to him, and that was what was in the best interest of the team. Not for him, not for his stats, not for his reputation, not for his ego. It was truly about the team for Jalen. It always was, and it was never on display more than last night.
Last one quickly, Greg, and while we know Nick Saban will enjoy it for probably last night and then start complaining today about how behind he is behind all the other teams and preparing for next year, how does Nick run this? Does Nick have open competitions? Will Nick make this an open competition if Jalen wants to stay? And we have no idea what he's going to do. But if he's going to say, will he say open competition, or is he I'm naming a starter guy and the other guy has to beat him out?
Oh no, it's open competition. If you remember back to every time that they've had a quarterback, I guess you could call controversy or competition in the off season. Outside of when I was a starter, because there just weren't as many options back then. It was early in Saban's takeover. But when A.J. McCarron took over in 2011, him and Phillip Sims rotated the first couple games. If you look at Blake Sims, he played a majority of the snaps in 14 because he beat Jake Coker on the field. And then Jake Coker in 2015 rotated all the way into the fourth game of the season with Cooper Bateman. Of course, you remember Blake Barnett started the first game last year, not Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts came in, he became the quarterback after rotating a few series there. So I think that he will absolutely let this thing play out. In a perfect world, of course, Nick Saban knows that having both of those quarterbacks on his roster could be beneficial. Now, the likelihood of having both next year is extremely small. I think Tua made a pretty big statement last night, and he's only going to get better. That's what's so unique about this young man. So I think it's his job, and it will likely be his job in the fall. Just hope that if Jalen does decide to stick it out or switch positions, whatever he decides to do, you know it's going to be in the best interest of his future. And I would think that Nick Saban would honor that. But in a perfect world, I know he'd love to have them both back, given that Jalen really has been pretty remarkably consistent over the course of his career. And having a guy that can do some different things and can run the football is a real positive.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. Yeah. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Joey Galloway, our ESPN college football analyst, and of course played for Ohio State, played many years, 15 years in the NFL. And Joey, I have a lot to ask you, but I've just been informed the most impressive thing about you this morning. You have a tea time at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I do. And your good friend Booger was supposed to be playing. But I don't know what happened. He called the Pinstripe Bowl. It was cold outside, and I seriously think that he will no longer leave his house if it's below 65 degrees. So he's tapped out. He can't go because it's too cold.
Marshmallow soft.
Yeah,
Marshmallow soft. By the way, what is the temperature going to be in Atlanta at 9 a.m.?
Let's see. I just checked, and it was right around 40 right now. And
that's respect. Respect, yeah. Joey. I have massive respect for you, and obviously everybody in Alabama has massive respect for Tua Tagovailoa and what he was able to do coming off the bench in the second half as a freshman and leading them to 26 points in the second half and overtime. And your analysis of the game-winning throw, I thought, was spot on. We played it earlier in the show. For those that were with us, explain what was most impressive to you about the 41-yard game-winning throw from Tua to Devonta Smith.
When I looked at the play originally, I thought, okay, Georgia was playing man-to-man, and the corner just got lost and couldn't keep up. And then once I saw it again, I realized they were playing cover 2. I mean, it was 2nd and 26. They're playing cover 2, so there's a safety on the hash, and the corner's supposed to reroute the receiver. Safety's supposed to be able to get over the top and stop the deep ball. You don't see quarterbacks throw a deep ball into cover 2. And Tua looks out here, sees the safety. He has an interview with Maria Taylor after the game, and he clearly says the safety's on the hash. Sees the safety on the hash, keeps him there, and decides to throw the deep ball and throws it on the money for a touchdown. You just don't see quarterbacks do that. That is a next-level throw for a quarterback, and especially for a freshman quarterback in that moment.
Were you surprised? I mean, we know and we have heard that there may be packages for Tua, even going to last week in the semifinal game, depending on what they needed and how Jalen was throwing. But all that said, were you still surprised when he came into the game in the third quarter?
I was so surprised, and I was at Alabama's spring game on the field, this earlier this year when Tua was throwing the ball, and people were talking about, this young kid could come in and start. And I'm thinking, there's no way. Jalen Hurts took him to the championship game. He was just a freshman at the time. There's no way this young guy's coming in to take his spot. And then I started to hear a few weeks back that Jalen Hurts would be on a short leash, and that, they would not go through another game like they did last season against Clemson where, they couldn't throw the ball. There were some throws that just weren't getting done in the pass game. And so I didn't believe it until Jalen Hurts went, I believe, 3 for 8 in the first half. And they said, let's go. We haven't put a point on the board. Let's make a move. And once again, Nick Saban looks like a genius.
Well, that is the point, right? I mean, what other coach do you think in that situation would have had not only the wherewithal to make the switch, but if it had backfired, would have had the sort of the reservoirs built up of good trust to sort of say, yeah, I understand why he did it?
I guess you make an excellent point. If it doesn't go right, Nick Saban's still the greatest college football coach of all time.
Right.
It's a big call. I mean, but Jalen Hurts was struggling. It was looking like Georgia's defense was going to be able to shut Alabama down because they had to run the ball. There was nothing they could do throwing. He was missing some guys, missing some reads, and so. When they come out in the second half, and I was, switching from one set to the next set, and I'm catching the TV as I walk by, and I look up and I see Tua in the game, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is truly amazing that Coach Saban just said, look, let's go for it because this is it. This is our only chance. Let's take it.
As far as from the Georgia side of it, Georgia found themselves in the opposite position they were last week when they were down. Everybody thought Oklahoma was going to run them out of the stadium. They come back and win. Here, they're up 13-0 and then 20-7 early in the third quarter. What in your mind went wrong for them, or maybe would it be more right for Alabama or more wrong for Georgia?
Well, Georgia, first off, they started the game with 7 straight passes. I don't like that idea, but they did it. And then they started running the ball, and they run it for 94 yards in the first half. So this is the Alabama team that only gives up 91 yards per game. And so in the locker room, that Alabama's coming out and they're saying, you're not going to run the ball on us. That's just not going to happen. You're not going to run it. And so once Georgia goes from averaging 7 yards in the first half per carry down to 2.4, I believe, in the second half, now you're playing Alabama's football. Now you're playing what they are designed to make you do, which is stop your run and make you beat us with their second best thing, which is Jake Fromm throwing the ball, which he played pretty good in the first half. But, we all know that when you're playing quarterback and you have the ability to run the football, it makes it a lot easier to throw the football. And so Alabama comes up. They're putting their guys in the box. They're going to be physical. And once they did that, once they came downhill and made Georgia go to the pass, things get a little bit hairy then, because now Nick Saban starts to mix up his coverages, starts to mix up his blitzes, starts to mix up his looks, and you're asking a young quarterback to beat Nick Saban at his game.
And look, it almost happened. But speaking of young quarterbacks, Joey, as Joey Galloway with us, our college football analyst, and obviously played in the NFL, wide receiver for 15 years. Joey, I thought one play, and we talked about this earlier, and I'd love to get your interpretation on it, that was really key to Tua in that second half. He goes 3 and out on that first drive, and then he has that 3rd and 7 on the second drive, and he rolls right, and it looks for all the world like he's going to be brought down by not 1, not 2, but 3 Georgia defenders. Somehow they sort of clang off each other, and he's able to run back to the left and get the first down, which eventually led to Georgia's first points in that, Alabama's first points in that game. How important mentally do you think that play was for him to sort of settle him down?
I think you need a play. You're absolutely right. It didn't start off great. And so in this situation, you need a play. And for a lot of young quarterbacks, that play sometimes ends up happening running the football, because you just need to move the chains. You just need to get your team excited, get some momentum. And so there were a couple plays. I mean, how about the 4th and 4 throw to the end zone? And I still don't think he could see Wrigley coming across the field.
Neither does Kurt Warner, by the way, who tweeted that. He's with you.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you see the replay, and he's not even in the screen when he cuts the ball loose, and then he comes across and catches it. And so, between that run that you're talking about and the 4th and 4 that you're talking about, sometimes things go right. You know what I mean? Sometimes things fall in your lap, and if you're Georgia, you're looking back and you're kicking yourself, because those are 2 plays. And you never, ever want to boil a game down to 2 plays. But those are 2 that Georgia really had a chance to change the game.
Joey, first a game next year is Tua or Jalen behind center?
Oh, man. It would be hard to imagine Tua not being the quarterback now, as hard as it was to imagine Jalen Hurts not being the quarterback this season, all season long. But you could just tell play calling wise, they were able to just call whatever they wanted. They could really go into the play side of the playbook. The throwing side of the playbook, and say, yeah, we can call any one of these. And they were letting him stand in the pocket, look downfield. It wasn't just quick throws, which, you throw a young quarterback out there, you're thinking there's going to be some quick throws, some screens, some swing passes, which is a huge part of Alabama's offense anyhow. But it wasn't. It was 5-step drop. It was sit in the pocket, look downfield, wait for the crossing routes. And so it would be hard to imagine Alabama going back to a limited offense because they don't trust Jalen Hurts' ability to throw the ball. So I'm going to say Tua would be the starter moving forward unless he just loses it in the spring.
Well, again, it looks like, even Jalen Hurts said he has that it factor, what he talked about. Right. It certainly seems like things are trending Tua's way, and things are trending Joey's way, because he's going to put that peg in the ground. That is mad respect for you, my friend. Thanks for being with us. And call Booger out for being as marshmallow soft as he actually is, all right?
He will never, ever live this one down.
No, it's ridiculous. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment.
Thanks,
all right, Joey. Appreciate you being with us this morning, and hit him straight, my friend.
All right, guys, thanks.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big, giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
Our next guest, Keyshawn Johnson, who's on ESPN LA Mornings with Keyshawn, Jorge, and LZ. Keyshawn, of course, the number 1 pick of the 96 draft, 814 grabs and 64 touchdowns in his career. Just give me the damn ball. The uncle to Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas, and a guy that played on a team that won a Super Bowl for John Gruden. And he joins us now on Golic and Wingo. Key, how are you this morning?
What's up, Wingo? With all that said, I'm not LeBron James.
Yeah, I know. That's much respect I have for you.
Wouldn't we all like to be for a day, though?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Listen, you're the same in my book. That's all I'm saying, Key. And I'm running with that. So lots to get with you today, and we'll get to what Mike has done. And can't guard Mike. He's been unbelievable this year for the Saints. But John Gruden going back into the NFL after a long time away. Your thoughts on what Raider fans should expect?
Well, I think they got to, Obviously, they got a good coach that has coached in the National Football League for a very long time, won games, won the Super Bowl, appeared in the playoffs. He's going into a good situation. And oftentimes, both Mike and you, Wingo, have seen coaches sit out, pick the right spots for the right type of teams and makeup to go back to. And he's going into a good situation. Money aside, I mean, just look at the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line is intact. They need to get back physical and strong again. They need to find a running back somewhere because I think Marshawn Lynch time is truly up in the National Football League. On the perimeter, they have receivers. They have all of those things. And then when you look on the other side of the ball, the back end struggled a little bit for them. They had a young defensive line. The linebackers seem to be intact. So he's going to surround himself with coaches that have been in the NFL. He's going to pluck from different systems, guys that contracts are up, that understand the West Coast system and the things that he wants to run. So the Raiders are certainly getting in a good situation right here. He's getting into a good situation. Now let's talk about the money.
Let's talk about the money.
Now let's talk about the money. I mean, I don't know what the true numbers are going to be, but whatever it is, that's the marketplace, and he set the market. So when you talk about in excess of $100 million, 10 years, we don't know what's in that contract. We don't know if there's an out in 5, or out in 4. We really don't know because we don't know the body, the language that's in the deal. But whatever it is, it was enough to entice him to leave from television to go back up to Oakland for a couple of years before he has a big party in Vegas.
Yeah, and let me tell you, nobody could blame him for wanting to do that. Let's cover the other side of it, though, Key. What about those that say, okay, we understand why he would take, if it's 10 for 10, that deal, but why would Oakland do that, give him that much money for a guy who, as people say, has won 54% of his games and been out of the game for, 8-9 years? Why do they do that?
Well, I think you go back to what I said earlier, Mike, is you put a system around him. He goes and he plucks these assistant coaches from other teams that either work with him and he has some familiarity with. He has familiarity with Reggie McKenzie. He knows that. So that's not going to change for him. He'll grab guys that have coached with him before or somewhere along the tree, take a guy from Sean Payton, take a guy from Sean McVay that he gave to Sean McVay in Greg Olsen, the quarterback coach that potentially could be joining John Gruden. So when you start to look at that, he's been away from the game 8 years, but has he really truly been away from the game? I mean, he do the little goofy quarterback camps or whatever that deal is, but he's also studying film.
Hey man, don't knock the swim noodles, okay? Don't knock the pool noodles, Keith.
But he also has been a part of Monday Night Football, so he has to prepare. And I'm sure as a coach, it doesn't leave your DNA. All these guys, Bill Parcells, he leaves the game for a little bit, but he's still coaching. I talked to Sean Payton yesterday on the phone he wouldn't let me off the phone. I was having a conversation with him for 25 minutes and I had to ask him one question. But he's coaching me, talking about my nephew, but he's coaching me. And I'm like, Sean, I don't play anymore, but I understand what X-stick looky is. And it's like, I get it, but that's coaching. That's what they do. And so, I think I personally think he'll be fine. The one thing that I honestly admire about John from his first time around as a coach in Tampa Bay when he was coaching me, he has matured as a coach because he understands that he's going into a different situation. This is the millennial kids now. They're not gonna put up with you screaming and yelling at them and acting a certain way. It's a totally but he understands that. And as long as he understands that and he's grown from whatever mistakes he's made in the past, he'll be a better coach for that.
Well, that was the only question I had, so I'm glad you answered that because that had been brought up to us a couple of times. Keyshawn Johnson with us, part of SportsCenter Special today at 3 o'clock on ESPN about the Raiders hiring John Gruden. Most people know him as Key. I call him LeBron. But along those lines, do you think he'll be able to make that change and be able to deal with that? Because that was the one thing, he loves veteran guys, Key, as you well know. You think he'll be able to manage that adjustment no problem?
I think he will be able to because the guys that are around him, again, the personnel people like a Reggie McKenzie or some of the other coaches that have been in the league detached from him will be able to explain that to him. And remember, he was the rock star. He was Chucky. He was I'm the blonde, pretty boy with the blue eyes. I just won a Super Bowl. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. It's changed now. It's no more come from the Raiders, take a team to the Super Bowl, and no one can tell me anything. It's not like that anymore. and the money has changed. Just think about it. If the Raiders go south in the next, let's say they go south for 3 or 4 years or whatever it was they coaching, they can cut bait and swallow the money because the money is so big now that they just won't blink and they'll get out of here. It's almost like college sports now. It's like, never mind. We'll eat that. And that is what it is. So I just not have anything to do with the money. I just think his maturity level from a coaching standpoint has evolved from just sitting around and watching over the last 8 or so years.
All right, let's stay in the NFL, but to a guy going into the NFL, and that's Sam Darnold. Obviously, you a former Trojan out there watching USC play, what this kid did last year, and then how that came into this year with all the hype and what happened. Where's the line to you on your thought with him of so many people say maybe he should go back to school, but if you're going to be a top 3 pick, why the hell would you go back to school? Where do you see his development of where he is right now?
Well, Mike, you know and I know, why would you go back to school if you're a top pick at all? Whether
right.
It's top 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, because you'll never get that money back.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you risk so much to happen to your body, all of those sort of things where you never get the opportunity to fulfill your dream. There's nothing wrong with chasing your dream. I personally think he's ready for the National Football League. Now, he needs some cleaning up. Everybody does. You needed it. I needed it. We all needed cleaning up. But I think if he goes to the right system, in the right situation, and the coaches really coach him up, then he could maximize his talent. But does that mean running from Cleveland? That doesn't mean run from the Cleveland Browns, because we truly, really don't know what's wrong with the Cleveland Browns. Maybe it is the fact that they need a quarterback, or maybe it's the fact that they need somebody else calling plays. We really don't know what that is. But as far as his talent level goes, I like a guy that can move around. I don't want a guy that stands there as a tall refrigerator if I'm a general manager and getting smacked upside the head with a weak offensive line. I like guys that can create on their own. Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. I want guys that can slide in the pocket and move around. I don't necessarily need Cam Newton, but I certainly need somebody that can get out of a way of somebody barreling down and coming and get them.
Keyshawn Johnson with us, who's on ESPN LA Mornings with Keyshawn, George, and LZ. And, of course, he'll be part of our Sports Center coverage tonight at 3 o'clock Eastern in the afternoon, noon on the West Coast with John Gruden's hiring back in the NFL. That's the news today. Obviously, we got the playoffs coming forward, Key, this weekend. And your nephew, Mike Thomas, has been absolutely on fire, has broken the record for most catches through the first 2 seasons in an NFL career. And I remember your quotes about him when he was being evaluated coming out of Ohio State, and you had the line which I think has been proven true. You said, and I remember reading this and studying up for the draft because he was a second-round pick. You said a lot of players think they're number 1 wide receivers. Mike is a true number 1, as in he will get the ball in the toughest situations. Watching him grow up, because he is your nephew, when did you know that he had that ability to not be, as you said, not a fake number 1, but a true number 1 receiver?
Well, I think watching him, as you said, grow up, his drive and dedication to becoming successful told me that he really wanted it. He wanted to be good. I mean, he'll never say he wanted to be as good as me or better than me, but certainly having people in your family that has played or gone or climbed the mountain to the highest level certainly gives you that vision and that sight line to attack. And I think that was something that he watched, and he watched me growing up as a player. And he said, I'm going to catch him and I'm going to pass him. And I remember he used to always tell me as a kid, send me some film. Let me see. And I used to be like, man, leave me alone. I'm too busy. And so he would download stuff on YouTube, but you could just tell. He was a lot like me. I didn't need somebody to tell me to go run the bleachers in high school by myself. He would do these things without somebody. And his dad as well would just drop him off at the gym, pick him back up when he's done, all by himself. Not me, not his dad. He just did it by himself. So when it was time for him to come out of Ohio State and go into the pros, I have a relationship with Sean Payton, and Sean was losing Marquise Colston, and I said, do you want to replace him? He said, yeah, why? What's up? I said, shh, be quiet, don't say anything. Best receiver in college football is Michael Thomas. Just trust me on this one. Sean said, okay. So Sean went, worked him out, did the whole deal, and just said, don't say anything. Be quiet. Shh, don't say. I said, don't worry about it. I'm not. And the next thing you know, the moment that they had an opportunity to grab him, they were going to take him in there. I think they were going to take him in the late 1, but there was no buzz of him going high in the twos. So Sean just kept it quiet and snatched him up, and the rest is history.
Literally history.
Yes,
the most
it is.
catches the first 2 years of his career, and the Saints this year are the first team in 25 years that have 2 running backs and a wide receiver, and that wide receiver being Michael Thomas, all with over 1,200 yards from scrimmage. Key, we appreciate you stopping by this morning, and we'll see you this afternoon on ESPN and the Sports Center special about the hiring of Gruden. Thanks for being with us, my man.
No problem, buds.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
We are delighted to be joined in studio by the very dapper,
Yes.
by the way, Louis Riddick, to give us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. You and I are slumming it here in just jeans and probably stuff that hasn't been washed in 5 days. Louis clearly is getting ready for a Sports Center appearance.
That is not slumming it.
He is very clean.
That's
right
not
now.
slumming it right there.
I would always say, though, those that are dressed up in their suit would deep down would rather be dressed like us.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Of course I would.
Comfort first, baby.
Yeah.
You
guys got the life.
We're call me at 420.
Mike's like, yeah, we do.
Yeah, call me at 420 when the alarm goes off. But yeah, we brought you in with the Straight Talk. So I'm going to ask you the Straight Talk right now.
Yeah.
Okay, you played under Nick Saban. He was one of your position coaches when you were at Cleveland. So you've been with Saban and Belichick in Cleveland. So you know who these guys are and what they're made of.
Yeah.
There are 4 NFL head coaching openings. How many of those head coaching openings teams should make a call as soon as they can just to see if there's a chance to pry him away?
Look, he's the greatest college football coach of all time. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time, regardless of sport. It just can't be debated anymore. If you're debating that at this point, it's just because you just don't like him, period. But if you're an owner, if you're a GM, if you want the best of the best, you call him. Will he probably say no to you? Yeah, he probably will. He's in a position now where he can ask for whatever the heck he wants.
That's
whatever
a nice
he
place
wants
to be.
And I'm telling you, what life is always about timing and leverage. He has it both. But he would require a special set of circumstances, I'm sure, to even probably get you to where you could get past going, hey, I was wondering if, and he'd be like, nope, click, nope. So, I mean, of course you call him. I mean, Trey, the guy is just flat out different. And I said this on social media this morning. I knew it when I was being coached by him that he was different. I just hated him because of how hard he was. I mean, him and Bill are just unique grinders as far as what they will do to test you mentally and physically. But if you can come through the fire, you are so much better for it. You just are. And if you can get a hold of coaches like that for your program, I don't care if it's pro or college. And the people who say he failed at college because he's not really cut out for it.
Failed in the NFL.
Failed in the NFL because he's not cut out for it. That's BS and you don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, you make the call. I don't think you'd have a whole lot of luck, but you make the call.
I agree, and it's amazing, like with Kirk Cousins, that it starts at $100 million. I wonder what it would start at for Saban, knowing because he's the only coach that can say Gruden getting $10 million a year. So
look, if you want to kind of be, really, if that the money part, look, the only thing he'd have to say is, you know what I make.
Yeah.
You don't, when you're serious, you call me. I don't have to tell you. You just tell me. And that'll pretty much say where we're going to go with this now.
And then you have to convince his wife.
But
again, you were on Belichick's the coach. Saban's your position coach.
Yeah.
These are arguably the 2 of the greatest coaches, one in college, one in pro that there is.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you about the thought process of Saban and what was more difficult last night to make the decision to pull a quarterback that's 25-2.
Yeah.
No, he has some passing struggles, but it's 25-2 and then trust a 19-year-old true freshman who hasn't had a meaningful snap in a game for the season. Which was the harder decision to do?
You know what? I think for Nick, because of how much he talks about process and being in the moment, kind of being where your feet are, just understanding where you're at this point in time, not really worrying about the long-term ramifications, because if you make the right decisions, the long-term ramifications are going to be what you want them to be anyway. I think he looked at it like this. I can't win this game unless I can throw the football. I just can't. This team is grinding us out on the run, and they can throw the football against us. We're falling behind, and we're getting no momentum going on offense. It's starting to trickle down to the defense. They're getting tired. They're hitting big plays on us. We have to throw the football. Our other Tua is the guy who can throw the football. And I don't think he worried about anything as far as I'm sure he's respectful of what it would make Jalen feel.
Yeah,
like
but
personally,
he didn't care about the feelings.
But he didn't care about whether or not, what does this mean for next year? What does this mean for my foot? He was like trying to win the national championship. And I think he looked at it just within that specific snapshot. And he said, look, I got to go with it. And I'm sure, I mean, after, hearing about some of the things he had said post game, he was prepared for maybe this inevitability. And that's him. He's always looking ahead. Mm-hmm. This wasn't one of those things where he's like, spurred a moment, man, I just got to try something else. Right. He had already had this lined up in the event that this had happened, which just speaks to why he's won as many national championships as he has.
Well, it almost seemed like he knew this might be a possibility. Talking to Kirk Herbstreit in the production meetings and the interview he did at the half with Tom Rinaldi, it certainly seemed like it was leaving the door open as Louis Riddick is here with us. And we'll get back to him and what he's done at Alabama in a minute. But you said something that was very interesting to me as a guy who follows the NFL as well as college football. It would take a very special set of circumstances for him to even entertain it. The 4 openings that exist are the Giants, the Lions, the Cardinals, and the Colts with Andrew Luck. Mm-hmm. Do any of those teams, for whatever reason, in your opinion, knowing Nick the way you do, qualify as one team that might have those special set of circumstances?
Well, I think, look, it would have to be an iconic franchise with very stable ownership.
Giants.
A long history of understanding of how to do things the right way.
Giants.
A roster that is set up to where he could get it turned around pretty quickly because he's not really trying to build it. He's not trying to look at some kind of 3-4 year turnaround. So that's what he would be. I'm sure, not speaking for him, but understanding where he's at.
Him.
But
You're speaking knowing him.
Knowing where he's at in his career, that's what he would be looking for. And look, if you have some of those things in place, then of course you'd ask him and say, hey, look, how interested are you in coming back and really just putting like the last feather in your cap as far as your career is concerned? And does that even mean anything to you? At this point in time, are you so comfortable with what you have done in college football that it doesn't mean anything to you anyway? But he's the ultimate. Look, he's the ultimate type A. He's the ultimate competitor. He's a unique individual in the realm of coaching, and those guys have unique goals. So I don't think it's out of the question that he would want to go ahead and try and climb that mountaintop too, and kind of for once and for all shut everybody up who says that he couldn't make it in the NFL. I'm sure it's intriguing to him, but he's got such a great life now. He's done so much, man. Look, people, you're going to have to come knocking on Nick's door. He's not going and like trying to politic for anybody's job. You go to him and you try to convince him.
That's the way I always thought about recruits, quite honestly. He shouldn't even have to go to living rooms. They should all come to him.
You know what? I mean, his what's funny, his program sells itself. And you know what? If you don't want to play for him, then you probably pretty much have already weeded yourself out because you probably don't have what it takes for what he's going to demand of you anyway. I mean, when you get to this point, that's when you know you've kind of reached a great point in your career.
Right. So we know, obviously, what he's doing in college. If he wanted to go to the NFL, he could. We've talked about Belichick some as well. Everybody knows who they are. Not many people know the new head coach of the Chicago Bears in Matt Nagy. So give people a little bit of, especially Bear fans, what are they getting in this 39-year-old former offensive coordinator for the Chiefs now?
Great guy. Spent a lot of time with Matt, both in meeting rooms, on the practice field, outside of the locker room, outside of the building. Very, very intelligent, very hardworking, very dedicated, very enthusiastic. He's been coached by the great coaches, Mike. I mean, you know how important that is, especially when it comes to quarterback play. Look, he worked with Doug Peterson. He's worked with Andy Reid. He's worked around and with Marty Mornhinweg. These guys can teach that position better than anybody. And Andy has been grooming him, just like he grooms all of his coaches that have head coaching aspirations on how to be a CEO in the NFL, a.k.a. a head coach. So he makes them look big picture while also really honing in on their area of expertise. Chicago's got someone right now who's going to be one of the great young head coaches, as long as, like all head coaches, he can win because of the strength of the program that they build around him and doesn't have to win in spite of it. Meaning, get him some players. He has to make sure he takes care of the assistants, get a great defensive coordinator, great offensive line coach, a great player support program guy. It's a great weight coach, training staff, medical staff. All that stuff has to be put into place for him because he's a first-year head coach, so he's trying to find his way. But help him build his program because I can tell you this, on the football field, he will extract the maximum out of Mitch Trubisky. I guarantee you. And he has been tutored and schooled in the type of offense that will fit Mitch's profile.
Well, in speaking with Louis Riddick here, our ESPN NFL front office insider, I'm glad you brought up Trubisky because, they did a deep dive in Kansas City on Trubisky last year during the draft when they were deciding, hey, do we want to try to trade up and make a play for Trubisky or do we want to decide to make a trade up for Mahomes? Now, I don't know whether Nagy had any final say in that decision, but how much of that familiarity, obviously, they know a lot about Trubisky. Yeah. How much of that do you think is going to help him going forward in this relationship with the quarterback there?
A ton. And that's why in scouting, in the whole draft process, even though you may not get an opportunity to draft some of these guys and work with them, that's why you're always building intel and building like a Rolodex as far as of information on all these guys because you never know when you're going to come across them. So it's without a doubt going to serve him very well as far as being a little bit ahead of the game as far as what kind of makeup Mitchell has, really what his strengths and weaknesses are. Look, I've talked to Matt for a while about the quarterbacks in the draft last year. We talk a lot about this kind of stuff. We used to talk about it when I worked in Philadelphia. So I have a pretty good feel for what he thinks about Mitch, and I can guarantee you this, the offense that they run in Kansas City, if you watch Mitch Trubisky and the type of style that he is, who does he remind you of a little bit in terms of style? It's a little bit like Alex Smith. He can run it. He has the ability to run the football and be a threat on zone read type of runs. He can change launch points and get out on the perimeter and throw on the run. Mitch is one of the best that came out a year ago as far as throwing on the run. And he can operate from the pocket. And they will get that part of his game going. The most important thing, though, right now, the most important job that anyone has in Chicago falls on Ryan Pace. He better get him some weapons.
The general manager.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the guy who right now needs to make sure that this whole transaction as far as hiring Matt succeeds, and that's going to be predicated on what kind of weaponry you get him.
Yeah, I've already lost some of those weapons, and already a guy you wanted to count on in Kevin White hasn't been able to stay healthy. He's a freakish athlete, but just can't stay on the field. You mentioned a comparison of Alex Smith. Is Alex Smith going to be on a different – is that ship sail there? Are we done there?
They are giddy, silly giddy about Patrick Mahomes. And for good reason.
I agree, but what a quarterback available then.
Exactly. But that's the amazing thing, right? I mean, Alex, I agree with you. I think he is gone from Kansas City.
You don't jump up that high tonight.
Alex Smith just came off a season where he had the most passing yards of his career, over 4,000, second best completion percentage of his career, 68%. He was 70 when he only played 10 games in 2012.
Yeah.
He threw for 26 touchdown passes against 5 picks. By far his best career in the NFL, and they are ready to sail on. And it leads us to the next point. Have you ever seen a veteran group of quarterbacks that could be available in free agency? Alex Smith. You don't know what's going to happen with Eli, free agency or trade. Eli Manning, Kirk Cousins, and Jimmy Garoppolo. They love him in San Francisco, but Jimmy's contract is up.
Yeah.
He gets to decide whether he wants to stay or wants to go somewhere else. So have you ever seen a depth like this in veteran quarterbacks that may be available when the new league year starts in March?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how what is perceived to be a pretty strong free agent quarterback class matches up with what teams are willing to part with in terms of money and compensation possibly in order to get them. Because you just don't know how that's going to match up. But I will tell you this. Look, there's some teams that right now, I'm sure, that are ecstatic over the veteran possibilities that they could acquire. I was just throwing it around yesterday and kind of like I wasn't really being silly about it. I was actually being serious. Think about Buffalo. Sean McDermott, someone who's tutored by Andy Reid, who they've done a lot of business with as far as trades, moving up and down in the draft. Could you see Alex Smith in Buffalo? What would Alex Smith do for that offense?
I mean, Tyrod Taylor might be available too.
Exactly. So I mean, there's going to be a home for Alex, and there's going to be a football team that gets much better because of him. And it's not really a knock against Alex, but the kid who they have in Kansas City right now, and Pat Mahomes, I can't overemphasize this. This guy they think is unique. Some of the throws. Look, I've seen some of their practice film and seen some. The throws this kid is making. Yeah. Are stupid. Some of
the throws he made in that start against Denver.
I mean, he's going to be
insane.
He's going to be a special player. You're going to remember that name. Just remember it now.
Yeah,
he's going to be around for a while.
Big 12 should be happy that they're good at quarterback coming out of their conference that may pan out.
That's going to be legit.
Yeah.
And you know what? And he couldn't have gone to a better place. You can knock Andy Reid for whatever you want,
right?
And plenty of people do, and plenty of people are killing him for that game against Buffalo, and they're killing Matt. I mean, against Buffalo, the playoff game they just lost against Tennessee, and they're killing Matt for it too. But I'll tell you this: they know how to coach quarterbacks. And he knows how to coaches to coach quarterbacks. Doug Peterson's doing pretty good in Philadelphia, isn't he?
Completely,
he's doing all right.
Completely agree.
So,
and staying on the coaching train, do you think there's anything to the fact that with all the supposed turmoil going on in New England that Bill Belichick is not coaching the Patriots next year?
I would never even guess about what Bill's going to do. Ever.
That is the straight talk once again.
Yes, it is.
Because I'll tell you this, because I promise you this, as much respect as I have for the guy, I know he watches this. I know he hears and sees everything.
Of course he does.
And the times when I run into him, trust me, I'm not going to sit here and go, this is what I think what Bill would do, because the next time I would see him, he'd be like, so that was what you thought. Huh? Yeah. Is that what you thought?
I'm not going to anything. No.
So I have no idea, man.
Okay. So
we'll wait and see.
So the Patriots continue to move on. It certainly looks like they're in good shape to maybe advance to the AFC Championship game, as they're a double-digit favorite, I think, against Tennessee. But that leads us to the team, as Louis Riddick is with us here in Golic and Wingo, that you've been on all year. And the Rams came up short in that game against the Falcons.
Wow.
Look, it was a remarkable turnaround for Sean McVay, but the special team sort of let them down. At the end of the day, have you sort of gone back and looked at that game? What happened? Because it just seemed like they...
What will your storyline be in 2018 now that the holiday rush is over? LegalZoom can help you make this a memorable year before all the distractions take hold. Make this the year you finally get serious about launching and running your business. Rest a little easier knowing your family's future is squared away with the right estate plan. LegalZoom has been helping people like you take care of their dreams and responsibilities for more than 16 years. They're not a law firm, but they have the resources to keep you on the right path, including advice from their network of independent attorneys, all at your fingertips. Whether you want to take your business to the next level or take control of your family's future with an estate plan, LegalZoom plugs right into your life so you can take care of the things that matter most. Get off to a strong start in 2018 at LegalZoom.com today and get special savings when you enter Golic in the promo box at checkout. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Good Tuesday morning, everybody, and it is indeed a sweet home Alabama for the Crimson Tide. Welcome into Golic and Wingo. Glad you are here with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic here. Junior will join us in a little bit next hour from Georgia. He couldn't pull himself away from the game, and Mike, my God, what an unbelievable finish to the college football season.
Listen,
Switching to Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, charades, Chinese checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.